is much more than the tale of its namesake. It is the story of the Kimmswick Bone Bed and the important discovery forever linking the Clovis people to the Mastodon. The area around Kimmswick, Missouri had long been known for the extensive animal bones embedded in clay and gravel settlements. Paleontologists, scientists who study ancient animal remains, theorize that the region was once a marsh, and as animals came to the mineral springs, they may have become trapped in the mud, which helped preserve their bones. Mastodon State Historic Site was created to protect this bone bed. But soon after its inception, a discovery of great archaeological and paleontological importance occurred. A discovery that linked the mastodon and other large mammals with the earliest identifiable Paleo-Indian culture in the Western Hemisphere. The first known excavation of bones of extinct animals in this area occurred in 1839, when Albert Koch, who operated a museum in St. Louis, received a report that large bones were sticking out of the banks of Rock Creek. His excavations yielded enough animal remains to construct a large skeleton. Thinking he had discovered a new animal, Koch named his find the Missouri Leviathan and toured with the bones throughout the United States and Europe. Koch eventually sold the bones to the British Museum in London, where it was discovered that the skeleton was incorrectly assembled. When put together correctly, the skeleton turned out to be an American mastodon. In the early 1900s, an amateur paleontologist named C.W. Beeler excavated several skulls, jaws, teeth, tusks, and other fossils, and exhibited them in a small museum on the site. Beeler advertised his museum at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis, and visitors from around the world traveled to the site to view his finds. In 1926, in Folsom, New Mexico, a stone spear point embedded in an extinct form of bison was discovered, forever changing our concept of when man came to the Americas. The point was believed to be at least 10,000 years old. Then in 1932, a different spear point associated with the remains of an extinct mammoth was found near Clovis, New Mexico. The Clovis point was dated as being almost 12,000 years old, establishing the Clovis culture as the earliest culture in the Americas. Other sites linking the Clovis people to mammoths were soon discovered in the western United States. Before these discoveries, archaeologists had placed man's arrival in the Americas at about 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, long after the huge prehistoric animals would have disappeared. Several years later, in 1940, Robert McCormick Adams, an archaeologist from the St. Louis Academy of Science, excavated the Kimmswick Bone Bed as part of a Works Progress Administration project. While excavating the site, Adams located a spear point several layers above mastodon bones and hypothesized that early man lived in the area at the same time as the mastodons. But evidence was inconclusive. In the early 1970s, public interest in the site was revived with the construction of Interstate 55. A group of citizens from Jefferson County became concerned that a significant part of history might be lost forever. Efforts to save the site were spearheaded by 4 local women who formed the Mastodon Park Committee. The committee worked closely with legislators led by local legislator Charles J. Becker, along with private individuals, corporations, and local school children to raise the necessary funds. Using a federal grant, the state of Missouri was able to purchase the 418 acres containing the bone bed in 1976. Because early excavations were not well documented, the Missouri Department of Natural Resources questioned if there was anything left to preserve in the bone bed. Dr. Russell Graham from the Illinois State Museum was hired to excavate the site. During his excavation, Dr. Graham discovered 2 Clovis projectile points, one in direct contact with the mastodon bone. The Kimmswick Bone Bed became the first site in eastern North America to establish a relationship between the Clovis culture and the American mastodon. Prior to this discovery, Clovis hunters had been associated only with mammoths in the western part of the United States. The Kimmswick Bone Bed is one of the oldest known archaeological sites in Missouri, and after Dr. Graham's discovery, is a prime example of Clovis culture hunting activity. Due to the archaeological and paleontological significance, the site was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1987. Dr. Graham's discovery added another facet to understanding the Clovis culture. These Paleo-Indians, or ancient Indians, occupied this area approximately 10,000 to 12,000 years ago during the end of the Pleistocene epoch, sometimes referred to as the Ice Age. Scientists believe that the people of the Clovis culture were nomadic, big game hunters living in small bands of about 30 to 40 people. Their technology of stone tools and stone weapons, such as spear points and the otlotl, or spear thrower, aided the Clovis in becoming successful big game hunters. The game living in the area would have provided an abundance of food, hides for clothing and shelter, and tools. The adaptability of mobile hunting methods and portable toolkits enabled the Clovis culture to rapidly expand its range across North America during this time. Paleo-Indians reached present-day Missouri at least 12,000 years ago, and for a brief period, the lives of humans and mastodons were intertwined. Mastodons are often confused with mammoths, which could be as tall as 13 feet and weigh between 6 and 8 tons. Adult mastodons were smaller, somewhere between 8 to 10 feet tall and weighing between 4 to 6 tons. In addition to size, their diet was also different.
So mammoths
While
bigger.
mammoths grazed on open grasslands, mastodons foraged on leaves, twigs, and branches commonly found in the spruce forest of the eastern United States. These Ice Age animals were probably attracted to the area for the mineral springs and ponds amid a coniferous forest. Other prehistoric Ice Age inhabitants of the area included the long-nosed peccary, 2 species of ground sloths, giant armadillos, giant beavers, stag moose, musk ox, bison, dire wolves, short-faced bears, American lions, and saber-toothed cats. These large animals are known as megafauna. It is not exactly certain what caused the extinction of the mastodon and other large Pleistocene animals. Some scientists believe it was a rapidly changing environment, Several periods of glaciation had occurred throughout the Pleistocene epoch, which ended approximately 10,000 years ago. During the last glaciation of the Pleistocene epoch, ice covered nearly 30% of the Earth's land surface, locking up thousands of cubic miles of water in the ice and lowering world sea levels more than 300 feet. As the Earth's temperature warmed, the glaciers melted, and the sea once again covered the exposed land, altering the vegetation. The Kimmswick area changed from coniferous open woodland, dominated by plants found in more northern areas, to an oak hickory forest in the span of just 2,000 years. Other theories suggest that disease or an asteroid explosion were responsible for the mass extinction, while many scientists believe the skilled Paleo-Indian hunters played a significant role in the extinction of the megafauna. Other scientists think that a combination of both environmental changes and the arrival of early humans were key contributing factors. Like the mysterious cause of extinction, scientists are also trying to figure out how these early humans got to the North American continent. For a long time, the Clovis first, or Bering Strait theory, has been widely accepted by scientists. This theory states that a land connection between Asia and Alaska, known as Beringia, provided a pathway for people to migrate across the Bering Strait into North America. The route would have required them to travel through an ice-free corridor into the interior of the continent. Due to a lack of archaeological evidence, scientists have begun to look for other possible migration routes. The Pacific Coast, or Kelp Highway theory, speculates that ancient humans followed a dense kelp forest that stretched from Japan along the Bering Strait and down the coastline from California to South America. Migration by boat from Asia to South America is another theory known as the Pacific Crossing. According to the Atlantic Crossing, or Solutrean theory, the first people crossed the frigid Atlantic Ocean from Europe's Iberian Peninsula. Early explorers could have followed the sea round the North Atlantic and down the northeast coast of Canada and the United States. Regardless of how the Clovis people came to be here, archaeological evidence found here at Mastodon State Historic Site makes the role of the Clovis clearer as scientists continue to piece together the mystery of the early inhabitants of the Americas.
It's a long video.
The site is a unique retreat set in the middle of a rapidly developing suburb of St. Louis, featuring 3 hiking trails, shady picnic sites with barbecue grills, a playground, and horseshoe pits, as well as a museum and visitor center. Exhibits explore the natural and cultural history of the Ice Age. At the center of the exhibit stands a life-size mastodon skeleton. The Wildflower Trail begins next to the museum and leads to the Kimmswick Bone Bed, where many of the bones and artifacts were found. There are no open excavations at this time in order to protect and preserve the remaining fossils, although an interpretive kiosk can be found at the bone bed explaining past archaeological digs. The Charles H. Callison Memorial Bird Sanctuary provides a quiet spot to watch birds and butterflies attracted to the many native flowers and bird feeders. We hope you enjoy your visit to Mastodon State Historic Site, your 21st century connection to the Ice Age, a place where you can learn about the life of the prehistoric people who hunted the mastodons in a rapidly changing environment, a place where for a moment you can take a step back in time and imagine what it was like to live here 10,000 years ago.
world. It's bigger than beer. I can't get over how big that is. Ooh. You're in the video. Oh my god. Here's the wildflower trail. Abracadabra.
Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my
Trail,
way.
but there's no sign out
Every
there.
single
Like for
day,
Waterman. Probably used to have, but they don't have anymore.
that's
Yeah, it looks like
my way.
Kimmswick Bone Bed. I smoke anywhere I want to then. We didn't see a
I'm gonna stop doing that on my video.
I go down there, can you pick me up there? Like down there earlier when we go down. We're going back to the car, that way we're gonna walk back. People already give up, nobody behind. In South Dakota, they still, the mama, they buy the property, whatever, start digging and building something. And then we're gonna end up in the highway. End up in the highway, I guess. Highway's right there. Right open view. They still digging and you see the actual walk. That's all sign, but that's it. Quarter a mile,
Every single something weird. That's my
amphitheater in the vehicle. I've been hiking for a mile now. Hope they take us back over there. Oops, I should be here. They're hiding here somewhere. Oh, Bigfoot right there. Right. I think it'll be. I'm looking like the one over there earlier. We're lost. And no more flying. Take a video now. I know. They don't even put sign here.